Back to Aaron with some C# news that you can use.
Thanks, Rick. Joining me today to talk about the stuff that's been coming out around C# and the sessions that we've had throughout Build that talk about the next phase of the language and things like that is one of our MVPs from New Zealand, Jaila, and I'm going to double check that pronunciation because I wasn't 100% sure on it. He's a technical lead for a company over in New Zealand, and as I said, he's one of our Microsoft MVPs, so it's great to have him on. We also have Scott Hunter, who is the Director of Program Management for the .NET team, also here to help us make sure that we stay on track and that we don't spend too much time waffling on about the location that we're in and how great it is that we're able to do an event like this remotely. And thanks, Scott, for staying up quite late because I know it is very much into the evening where he's based. Jaila, why don't you start by introducing yourself and see if I got the pronunciation of your name correct?
Yes. Hi, guys. So I'm Jalia. I'm coming in from Auckland, New Zealand. So I'm originally from Sri Lanka, and I'm one of the MVPs in developer technologies. So I'm working for a company called Informa Software, and which is based in US.
Cool. And your area of expertise in as an MVP award is around the sorts of things you've been doing with .NET and the .NET programming languages in particular. I've seen that you've done a whole bunch of stuff recently around C# and helping moderate some events and some content production and stuff like that. So I'm someone that hasn't spent a whole lot of time doing C# for the last couple of years. I tend to gravitate a bit more to F# when I'm doing stuff on .NET. But I believe that there's been some really fascinating stuff come out of the .NET the C# programming language. Why don't you get us a bit up to speed about the C# 8 stuff that came out last year before we dive into the new and shiny stuff that's coming in C# 9 that was talked about over Build?
Right. So maybe let me share my screen so that'll be helpful. So can you see my screen?
Yep, there we go.
Yeah. So C# as of today, C# 8 was released in September 29 as part of .NET Core 3. And it has some nice set of features like read-only members. C# 7.2 had read-only structs, but in C# 8, we can add a read-only modifier directly to members itself. Keeping the struct as not read-only. And we have default interface methods, and we have asynchronous streams, which is a very nice one. And there was a lot of things introduced to patterns. So there's like switch pattern expressions, property patterns, tuple patterns, etc. And there's like a whole bunch which was introduced in C# 8. So, and then, of course, yesterday, the initial C# 9 was introduced as part of the build. So maybe I can switch to my Visual Studio.
Yep, that'd be great. Yeah, and some of those features look really, really interesting. As I come from a functional programming background, and things like pattern matching and read-only structs and stuff like that look really interesting. And I'm excited to see how the C# language is evolving to be more of that hybrid between object-oriented and functional programming.
Right. Yes, of course, it feels the same to me. So here I have the latest preview build. So if I look, I have Visual Studio 16.7 preview 1. And in my
I love
project,
to see that people are trying out our preview builds. And this was only just released as part of Microsoft Build. And it's great to see that you've jumped on board so that we can get that feedback from our community experts that are using these tools day to day.
Oh, yes. Actually, I started my office work. From today onwards, I started using this preview. So here, if I have a look at the CS project file, the language is set to preview. So there are a couple of features which is already available with this bit. So we can try it out. So let me just start with target type new expression. So here, this is a dictionary, and we have the dictionary initializer. So you can see that there's we can either put var over here. So here I have a dictionary. I'm creating a dictionary, and I'll just put So over here, so this is what we are seeing. So what in C# 9, what it brings is the new expression. So basically we can get rid of this one over here because it is going to be inferred by the left-hand side. It's going to create a dictionary. And then on this one, on the values, we really don't need to put the list of strings because it can be inferred from over here. So I can just get rid of this one. And this should build. So you can see it's getting built. And alternatively, you can put something like this one as well. So here we can have the dictionary list as it is. And this one can be changed to var. And we can get rid of this listing as well. So basically, it's a very nice feature. And it's very like little lines, little code. We don't have to duplicate the stuff. So it's kind of like beautiful. So
that's really cool. It always bothered me that when we were doing when you were typing out like a dictionary or a collection like that you had to type both sides. And then when I started playing more with the F# as a language, getting that inference. But this is really cool because while we might think of it, it's just we're typing a few less characters. Is that really going to change anything? I think it really helps us think more about the way that we represent the data and what's being passed around, and not just have to have everything really explicitly typed. If we name things better as variables, or if we have better explicit typing where it would make sense to have it, then and let the power of the compiler and the fact that there's a type-safe language in there is really cool. So I like that. Also, just a tip for the people that are watching on the stream, if you wanted to try out some of these language features, you just need to turn the language mode to preview in the CS project file, as was shown just before. So that's the reason we would do that, is it tells the compiler to opt into those language features.
Exactly. Even here, so here it's just one, it's a small line of, small code, but still what matters is, we don't have to, when you think about it, we really don't have to put it because we know now we are going to create a dictionary which has values which are of type list of strings. So basically it really makes sense to get rid of this one. And I really like this feature. So
yeah, that's a good point though, because that inference is there for you.
Yes, exactly. And the next one is, let's go to patterns. So here I have this code, which is on C# 8. So basically, to give you background here, I have a customer and I need to get the discount percentage. I have this method to get the discount percentage. So I'm passing in a customer. Customer can be either a walk-in customer, online customer, and it can be null or it can be something else. Some other customer, we don't know. So here, if the walk-in customer, if it's a walk-in customer, I'm directly giving a 20% discount. Still, you can see that I need to put the discard over here. Even though I'm not using it, I just need to put a discard. So here I have an online customer. If the customer is an online customer and the online customer's age is greater than 70, I am giving a 60% off discount. If the online customer is online customer's age is greater than 60%, then I'm giving a 40%. So it should be between 60 to 70. If for all other online customers, I'm giving just 30% off discount. And if it's null, I'm throwing an argument null exception. If it's something else, I'm throwing an argument exception. So the same thing can be written with C# 9 with some new patterns which was introduced. So here we are going to be seeing the type patterns, relational patterns, and logical patterns. So here, if it's walk-in customer, I'm getting 20%. See, you can note that I don't have to put the discard here because I'm not going to be using that variable. So if it's online customer, there's an inner switch. And here we are seeing the relational pattern. So if the age is, which is being passed to the switch from here, if it's greater than or equal to 60 and it's less than 70, I'm giving a 40%. And you can see over here, I'm using a logical pattern. So and suppose, or we can put or, in this case it doesn't make sense. So even or supports, but what we need to put is and over here. And if it's greater than 70, 60, and if something else, just 30%. And here you can see I have this not null. I'm using a logical pattern. So if it's not null, I'm throwing an argument exception, means this customer is not an walk-in customer, not an online customer, and it's not null. So if it's null, I'm just throwing an argument null exception. So here, this one is, this pattern is called the type pattern. Based on the customer's type, it's going to the path. This one is called a relational patterns. These ones are relational patterns. And this and not is logical patterns. Even, we can do something like this. So if customer is not walk-in customer, so even we can use the not inside the if statement. Previously, what we used to do is, okay, put not over here, something like this. So this code is kind of like simplified, so we can just use something like this. So isn't it nice?
Yeah, that's really nice. It's basically a switch statement on steroids, and it's so much more expressive in the way that you could read that code. Whereas, previously trying to do that sort of stuff where you're doing of types and logical operations, you'd either have to do nested switch statements and if statements, or you'd have a combination of the two, or you maybe build your own little expressive DSL sort of thing almost to achieve it. But just having it straight there that you can write it, it's not overly verbose, it's very easy to read. And as someone who hasn't looked at C# for a while, I can easily pick up what the intent of that code is doing, so that it's a very clear chunk of intention from a code base. And that's what I love most about programming, is when the language is just readable, even if you're not overly familiar with it.
Exactly. Here, it's just like for the same online customer, I have multiple statements, but here I have just one. So it really makes more sense and more readable. So
for sure.
Then let me switch to init. So before going into it, let's consider this code. So I have a struct point which has two properties, and here I'm just I'm using the object initializer and setting the values. Now see, the issue, say for some reason I don't want someone to mutate this object. So what I can do is I can just get rid of this set, right? So if I remove set, then of course, then there's an issue. I can't use the object initializer to set values. So in that case, what we used to do is we are creating a struct, and we are putting we are creating the constructor, we are parameterizing it, and here x would be x, y would be y, and we will be doing something like this. But then the issue is, say I have multiple parameters, so then I have to keep I have to make sure that I am passing the parameters in order. So it's a kind of either we are going to compromise the mutability or mutability or not. So with C#9, the change that I'm going to do will not work in this bit because it's not yet publicly available. So C# has introduced new accessor called init. So this is not going to get compiled, but that's fine. So I can get rid of this one, and I can still use my object initializer to set values. And I can set values in the object initializer, but if I try to do something like this, it's going to fail. because I'm allowing only to set the values through the object initializer, but other than that, no. That's what the init would do. So hopefully in the next version, this will come out. So that's something to wait. So another thing is, if you have kind of like a class hierarchy, for instance. So here, let me just uncomment this code. So here I have the base class and I have a derived class, and in the base there's a public property which has a getter and init only. So right now, if right now with C#8, if I don't have this one, and if I in the derived class, if I try to set the value of the base property from the inside the constructor, it's not allowed because this is getter only. But with init, we can set from the derived classes constructor the values. Not only that, when we are creating a derived class object using the object initializer, I can set the values. So this is kind of like a nice thing I really like, because it takes the mutability into a different level.
Yep.
So and then that is about it. So there's another thing that we really talk about. That's primary constructors. So, and this has been in the discussion maybe from C#6, but finally hopefully it's going to come out in C#9. So let's consider this code. So here I have this class, and I have this single property, which is a name. And just imagine that I need to do some validation when we are setting the values. So if it's null, I'm throwing an argument null exception. So this line of code, there's like so many boilerplated code. I need to create a private backing field, and I need to pass in a name. I have to have a constructor which is accepting the name, and I'm setting it to the backing field. And here I have this property. So with C#,
I'm sorry to cut in just there, but we're actually running out of time because there's so much really exciting stuff, and I just love how well you've been doing the walkthrough with us. I just have one final question. I actually want to throw to Scott to ask a question of him. It's coming on our chat, and the question was whether or not the C#9 stuff is only available in .NET Core, or can we use it on .NET Full Framework projects as well?
The C#9 stuff is only going to be available in .NET Core and .NET 5. Some of the new features that we added to the language actually require runtime changes. And our main emphasis with .NET Framework at this point in time is to maintain the best compatibility we can. We don't want to break people's machines with the Windows update, updating you to a new version of .NET Framework. And so we're really only changing the language in .NET Core and in .NET 5. I want to say one more thing too, which is you mentioned preview builds of Visual Studio. If people didn't know, you can actually install the preview build with you still having the main build on your machine at the same time. We've done a lot of work over the last couple of years to make that really, really work well. I actually have both the preview and Microsoft internal and the public builds on my machine all the time over the last year and a half. I've never broken a single thing. So if you want to try these new bits, you should feel safe installing a preview build side by side with your public build.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for joining us for this session today. I know that it was a really quick run through about some of the new C# language features, and I'm excited. I'm going to have to go up and make sure I get the updates installed and start checking them out. Maybe it's going to drive me back from the F# land. We'll have to see. But again, thank you both for joining us. It was lovely to hear about some of that from you today. But we're going to move on to our next session.